Welcome to my show. I am with a guest here. His name is Mr. J. Uh, Mr. J, how are you doing, sir?
I am very good. Thank you for having me on.
All right, sir. Firstly, there was something that gave me the first concern. Your name was Mr. J. Can you tell us your full name? Is it something you love to say, or you just love to keep it private, sir?
Well, that's what I go by. That's what I'm known as professionally. It's like Dr. Phil, Mr. J.
All right, sir. All right, sir. Firstly, we know you are a professional relationship coach. You are also a betrayal trauma petitioner. You are also a speaker. You also have many achievements. Can you walk us through your journey, how you've been motivated to pass through all this journey and achieving everything once and for all, sir?
Well, that's quite a long journey, but I'll just try to make it short and say I spent many years in theater, which gave me a comfort for the stage. I have been through, a lot of developmental trauma in my childhood. Um, when I was pursuing my degrees, I have a degree in, I have studies in criminal justice and recreation and theater and science. And I am able to speak well in terms of when I'm talking to people. And this career that I'm in now, I never sought out necessarily. It sought me out. A lot of people were asking me for my thoughts on different types of trauma and betrayal. And so I decided I would go and get certified in that field. And that's what I did. I went and got certified in this field. And ironically, this is what I do now, full time. So I work with people that are dealing with trauma from a primary attachment. So what does that mean? It means that I work with people that are traumatized from people that they rely on. It could be their spouse, it could be their parent, it could be their boss, anybody that they rely on. It's a primary attachment trauma, and that's what I specialize in.
All right, so on this trauma, do you have any book you're writing, or do you have any book you've published, sir?
Well, ironically, years ago, I was a teacher. So before I was doing what I'm doing, I was a teacher. So I actually wrote and published a children's book. But as far as my work as a trauma practitioner, I have a published trauma journal out there. And basically, what this is it's a 3 month, 90-day journal that helps people go from devastation to restoration, from confusion to clarity. So that's a journal that people can have purchased and are able to fill out and help them on their journey through healing, through the process of trauma, betrayal trauma.
All right, sir. This journal, is there any website someone can get it, or is something that?
Oh, it's all over Amazon and things like that. Yeah.
All right, sir.
I mean, I have a website too. It's on my website, but it's on Amazon.
All right, sir. All right, sir. Firstly, can you explain to us if you have any experience in betrayal trauma and how have you managed to deal with it, sir?
Well, yeah, like I said, I've had developmental trauma, so I have, personal experience. Um, uh, and then when I got certified to work with people and couples on their own trauma, certainly I had to go through extensive training for that. And as far as, how do I deal with that? With helping people, it really depends on where on the spectrum and journey people are. If people come to me and they just discovered that there was some betrayal in their life, obviously I'm going to deal with them a little differently than somebody who, has been dealing with this for 10 years. Or maybe somebody has had betrayal in their life and they got help for it and then 15 years later, they're going through a midlife crisis or something stressful, and something is coming up within them, and they need somebody to process that with them. So it really all depends. I can give you, tons of information, but it really does depend on where somebody is when they come to see me and their needs, because everybody has different needs based on a bunch of different factors.
All right, sir. We know that there is some issue with trust, but how do you think, someone that is dealing with betrayal trauma, something like that, how do you think the person can deal with trust issues?
Well, first of all, one of the things that people need to do is get back in touch with themselves. A lot of times people don't trust themselves. And if people don't trust themselves, there's no way you're going to trust other people. It's like right now, if I ask to borrow $10 from you, but you only have $5 in your pocket, you can't give me that $10. So if you don't have trust, there's no way you can give it to other people. So really, the number one thing I would say is you really need to work on trusting yourself. What does that mean? Make micro goals for yourself and achieve those goals. Then make small goals for yourself, achieve those goals. Then make, medium, and make sure you stick to it, and that's going to help you start working on trusting yourself. And really it goes to the same way with other people. um you know I in one way, I like to say give people the benefit of the doubt, but really, to be honest with you, you have to trust but verify. So, you can trust people, but you have to verify along the way until you give them the gift of your trust, because trust is earned. It's not just something that, somebody gets immediately. It has to be earned, and then we give it to them. And we have to start small, building on, okay, we went out to dinner today and you spoke nicely about me and I told you some things, and I felt very comfortable with you. Okay, there's some trust, a little bit of trust there. Then the next time I ask you to meet me somewhere, you meet me there. I don't feel like you have any secrets, things about. We built a little trust, and then eventually we go on a vacation together and we have a nice time together, and I trust you, what. And so then somebody earns trust. So we have to be very careful giving away our trust very quickly, which means we have to work on our own brokenness so we trust ourselves first.
All right, sir. I would like to ask, what support system do you think can help in, healing someone that is dealing with trauma that deals with the betrayal, sir?
So, support systems. Well, number one, faith. If somebody has a faith, a religious practice, meditation, mottos and mantras. Like, for instance, sometimes I'll tell people there's I don't know if you're familiar with the Ho'oponopono prayer, but it's a Hawaiian prayer that's very effective. There's also the Brahms Viharis, which is a compassionate mantra, very effective. There's also the Serenity Prayer. If somebody is a Christian, God grant me the serenity to accept these things and whatever. I also think if somebody has very, very close, trusted friends, that could be a support system. Obviously, talking to a mental health professional, that could be something. But we have a slew of free resources and supports at our hands with the internet. There's videos and there's things we can read, uh, and and really just trusting the process. Sometimes when we're going through betrayal, we can't trust. It's hard. But one of the things that I say is, if you can't trust yourself and you can't trust somebody else, can you just try to trust the healing process, if nothing else? Or tell yourself, you know what? I trust the sun is going to come out tomorrow. And then when the sun comes out, that'll give you a little faith that, you know what? Okay, I can trust something. Build small. But yeah, supports are very important. And I also do what's called a needs assessment, which goes hand in hand with support. Everybody needs different things. if you were betrayed, you're going to need different things than, say, if I were betrayed. I talk with a lot of single parents that have kids. When they do a needs assessment, they need to find restaurants that deliver food, because sometimes they're in bed crying and they can't get up and make their kids food. So they need to know, are there restaurants or people that will come and serve my kids food while I'm in bed crying? Everybody has different needs. So those support systems are also based on individual needs.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to ask you, how do you think betrayal trauma, how do you think does it affect someone's self-worth and how does it affect someone's self-esteem?
So basically, it destroys it. It shatters it. Um, when we trust somebody, especially if they happen to be our spouse, our partner, our significant other, we put so much of our own value in who they are. We put so much of our self-esteem and our self-worth into who they are and who's by our side. Um, and oftentimes, if we come from a past where we have any type of trauma, what we also do is we put extra responsibility on this new person, that they are the one that are going to prove to us that there's good people in the world. And when all of a sudden they break our trust, they not only affect our self-esteem, affect our self-worth, they affect our whole outlook on the world, because we put them on this pedestal that they were going to prove to us that humanity was good. Then on top of that, what happens is that when somebody breaks our trust or betrays us, what they do is they wake the sleeping giant within. Now, what is a sleeping giant? A sleeping giant is all that childhood and developmental trauma that we had years ago that we never dealt with. So when somebody in adulthood breaks our trust or betrays us or traumatizes us in some way, now they've woken up that sleeping giant within, and now we're dealing with overwhelm of trauma, and it's overwhelming, which is why a lot of people are homicidal and suicidal and can't get out of bed for days.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for that. So, how do you think someone who is, dealing with this betrayal, how do you think that person can seek professional help, professional advisor, professional therapist, or counseling on his to heal his his trauma, sir?
Yeah, one of the frustrating things, as far as mental health goes, is number one, you have to know if you have insurance. Number two, what kind of insurance do you have? If you don't have insurance, do you have any extra money to talk to somebody? If you do have insurance and you do have extra money to talk to somebody, you have to see if your insurance company takes your insurance. Then you have to see if that mental health professional um, uh, has the availability to work with you. Then, after all that's done, and this could take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks at a time, and a lot of money and a lot of energy, then you might be talking to somebody and you don't even have a vibe with them. You don't even like them. And so now you got to start the whole process over again. So, one of the things that I would say is, if you have any recommendations from friends or family, listen, I'm going through something. Do you have any recommendations? That's number one. Number two, because a lot of people don't want to ask people if they have recommendations, because maybe they have some shame and they don't want to share that part of their life. Um, a simple search on the internet, who does this. And nowadays with TikTok, you can find out so many professionals, um, that you can work with. Um, but uh, and then there's a lot of free resources too. But I will tell you, you have to find somebody that specializes in betrayal trauma if you're going through this, because a dentist is a doctor and a back surgeon is a doctor. but you wouldn't go to a dentist if you needed back surgery. So if you have betrayal trauma, you can't just go to a regular counselor. You got to find somebody who specializes in betrayal trauma.
All right, sir. So this takes me to the area of forgiveness. What role do you think forgiveness plays in developing healing in betrayal trauma, sir?
So, very good question. And I'm going to answer it similar to how I answered another question. Uh, what does forgiveness mean to you? That's number one. If you ask 10 different people what their definition of forgiveness is, you're going to get 10 different answers. That's number one. So, what does forgiveness mean to you? Number two, have you applied forgiveness to yourself? What does that mean? That means when you were younger and your parents told you, oh, you were stupid, or you couldn't sing, or you weren't lovable, or you're always in the way. What happens is we personalize those and we believe them, and they affect how we are an adult. So you have to go and you have to write down every area that negatively affected you. And then you need to forgive yourself for believing those lies. Forgive yourself for believing the lies your mom said about you. Forgive yourself the lies your dad said about you. Forgive you the lies that the village people around you were saying that they're not true. So that's number one. Define what forgiveness is. Number two, apply it to yourself. And then number three, you want to not necessarily forgive the person's behavior, but forgive the person that they allowed their wounds to be in the driver's seat of their decisions. And it's like many other things that I say, you have to work up. You have to really work up to, okay, I forgive you. Now, keep in mind, forgiveness is not one and done. We just don't say, okay, I forgive you, and then you go on with life. Every morning you get out of bed, you might have to think about this person, say, okay, today I'm choosing to forgive you again. So it's not a one and done, it's a continual process. And sometimes you have to break down things. You know what? I forgive this person for doing this, but I'm not there yet to forgive them for doing that. Another thing, too, if you're not ready to forgive somebody, you can say, I want to forgive them. I can't right now, but I do want to forgive them. And if you can't say that, maybe you can say, I want to forgive somebody. So keeping in mind, also, the last thing I'll just say about this, even if somebody doesn't deserve forgiveness, you deserve peace. So you want to forgive somebody because that lifts the burden off of your shoulders.
All right, thank you so much for that, sir. Thank you so much. And I
Yeah.
want to also ask, what advice can you give to someone that is currently experiencing betrayal trauma? What advice can you just give to such person?
Yeah. Well, that's a big loaded question because I'd have to know, did they just experience betrayal trauma last night? Or was it 10 years ago? And was it from their spouse? And if it was from their spouse, are they still together with their spouse? Are they reconciling? Are they rebuilding? Or are they divorced now? But one of the things that I will say, just in general, you have to give yourself the power of choice. Because anytime somebody breaks your trust, what happens is they're robbing your choice from you. They're robbing choices from you because you didn't have the choice to consent to what they were doing. If you're in a relationship with somebody and you're thinking, we're being faithful and we're telling each other our secrets and I'm loving them and I'm trusting them, and the whole time they're playing games behind your back, they're robbing you of your choice. Because if you knew what they were doing, you probably wouldn't be in a relationship with them. So they robbed you of your choice. So one of the things that I would say is you have to give yourself the empowerment of making choice. Now, what do I mean by choice? In all areas. You need to tell yourself, I'm gonna give myself permission today to go to the store and buy bread at 4 o'clock. I'm going to give myself permission to take a shower at 8 o'clock. I'm going to give myself permission to buy this car. You have to give yourself back choices because your choices were robbed from you.
All right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And in what ways do you think society can support individual who is dealing with betrayal trauma? In what way do you think society so can do something?
Well, this is a very good question, but it's a hard one. I'm going to tell you why. Betrayal trauma is one of the only traumas where it's a secret society. So, for example, if you're, let's just say your parent were to pass away, or let's just say a family member or a loved one were to die, you could call your boss and your boss will give you some bereavement time or some grieving time. Your coworkers will send you flowers. Your neighbors will come and bring you something to eat. Everybody's patting you on the back. I'm sorry for your loss. When you find out that the person you loved and trusted the most were 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 cheating on you or living a double life, you don't want to tell other people because there's shame, there's guilt, there's embarrassment. There's no such thing as broken heart time off from your job. So you don't often tell your job what's going on. And if you do have to take some time off and you have to share with your boss why, it comes with shame. You don't often want to tell your family members because if you tell your family members what your spouse did, and then you guys decide that you're going to reconcile and stay together, now your family members are always going to, look at your spouse a little. So, one of the hard things about society supporting betrayal is that we don't tell society when we're betrayed because you know we lose friends, we lose family, we a lot of things happen. So one of the things I can just say is for people that have gone through the trauma of betrayal, if they're comfortable, let people know I've been through this, but I survived, I thrived. These were the tools that I used to help other people. I often say you got to get to a point in your healing where you can walk through hell, but hand ice water to those that are walking out after you.
All right, sir. And I have this question in me. How do you think the belief of betrayal trauma, how have you seen it change over time? Is there any way that it has changed over time or is still the same belief people have with it?
Listen, it changes daily. It changes daily. This is a field that changes daily. And I'm like, for instance, if you look at betrayal trauma, even 20 years ago, all the mental, well, not all, but a good majority of the mental health professionals would say a lot of it had to do with the other person. So, for instance, let's just say you're married to somebody, and you have some childhood trauma, and you're overwhelmed, and you're stressed out, and you start drinking. And you go to a counselor. This is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. The counselor would say, well, what is your spouse doing that would make you drink so much? Or if you were to cheat on your spouse, the counselor would say, well, your spouse isn't having enough sex with you. That's why. When we know today that our trauma, um, our spouse can have contributing components, but bottom line, our decisions are our decisions, and we have to be 100% accountable and responsible for them.
All right, sir. Lastly, there's a question I always ask. From the ancestors, from the forefathers, if there is something that that happens then, things like that, that you would love to bring back to our present moment today, what do you think that thing would be, sir?
Oh my God. Everything from faith to respect, um, to a genuine consideration. I mean, like, listen, I don't know how it is where you are, but we're in a times now where we can't even talk about political differences. There's no such thing as talking about political differences today without name calling. So it's no longer you're a Democrat or a Republican. It's you are a libtard or a white ring freak, or you can't even talk about your political differences without name calling. I think we've stepped so far away from um, simply respecting individual differences. We don't have to like them, love them, agree with them, but certainly we can respect them. And we lost that. And that's a sad place to be in.
All right, sir. Mr. J, I want to appreciate you for the little time you gave to me on my show. I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Very welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, have a wonderful day, sir. Bye bye.